Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person. Yosemite's one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
Well, you haven't. Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
Amazing.
He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Big, massive dumps.
Oh, I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
You ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole.
Putting us on our knees to China.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
Nancy Pelosi's gazpacho police.
Stupid.
Around the nation, Small Earth Nation. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It's Friday. It's Friday. We got a show for you today, for you all today, for you guys and gals. Everybody, calm down. We're a little bit late. It happens. All right, no worries. We got stuff. We'll get into it. First. Look, we're going to talk about, of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene. It is a day that ends in Y after all. And so, of course, she's going to say something ridiculous. And I'm going to fact check. We got Mike Pillow. Yes, that's right. We got some pillow talk. We have Hate Crime Karen updates. Interesting. We have a Section 230 story. It's pretty interesting. So we'll talk about that. It's only the future of the internet, after all, so let's do that. And of course, apparently, how did the residents of East Palestine, Ohio, feel about Donald Trump's visit? Well, we have some mixed opinion. All right, so let's get to that. But first, got another story here. And we'll start out with that. First, if you haven't already, please like and share the stream. Very important that you do so. With that, let's do it. Rittenhouse has engaged in a new media tour in order to beg for cash. I talked about that. He's got a new fundraiser to pay for some of his legal bills. And so on Thursday, he went on Donald Trump Jr.'s podcast named Triggered. Because of course, right? And during that, he ended up putting his foot in his mouth. Take a look.
It was scary. I was up against these George Soros-funded prosecutors.
What was going on? Were these guys getting some sort of, back-end donations? And I mean, the media, obviously, and everyone else going after it, but...
I guarantee it.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure. I don't know for 100% fact.
Yeah.
But I guarantee, I'm sure of it.
Yes, of course. I'm sure of it. George Soros. The favorite right-wing boogeyman. Now, look, does George Soros fund liberal causes? Yeah, sure. FEC records show that he does help the campaigns of Democrats. But guess what? He's not the only one. There's tons of wealthy people that make political donations all the time. Corporations. And by the way, corporations both donating to both Democrats and Republicans. I know, imagine that, buying both sides. And so, look, what this falls into is the old anti-Semitic tropes. Obviously, we all know that lobbying is a problem, that there are lots and lots of billionaires and millionaires that will pump money into our elections. By focusing, though, only on George Soros, they're doing, once again, the Jewish puppet master, sort of anti-Semitic conspiracy trope, which is, again, a classic one that right-wingers continue to bring back over and over and over again. So, look, the focus is on, again, George Soros, because it is that he's pulling the strings. And also, let me add into that they talk about both immigration, right, on the right wing, being funded by George Soros, and then efforts at doing gun control. So now the gun control thing, again, the anti-Semitic trope of the Jewish people running the world. And so, well, obviously you have to have your weapons to protect against that, the New World Order, the globalists, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So now, to Kyle Rittenhouse, I believe that he knows this conspiracy. I think that's why, in my estimation, and again, I'm gonna pull a Rittenhouse here and say, oh, well, I'm not 100% sure. But I think that might have been a moment of self-reflection with that partial backpedal. Oh no, I can guarantee it that it's George Soros funded prosecutors. They're after me. I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. Oh, okay. So look, it's a dog whistle, and I think that's obvious. But he's also obviously bad at doing the right-wing dog whistles. So, like, for example, savvier right-wingers will go and say stuff like, and they'll be intentionally vague about it. Oh, you got the elites, you got the globalists. That's what's going on. The globalists, they're funding Democrats in order to water down the Second Amendment. That's how you do it. But this kid is not media savvy. He's like, oh, no, yeah, well, George Soros. By the way, the fact that the right, a lot of members of the right do say, oh, George Soros, also shows that they're not exactly savvy either. That, or they don't really care. They're just like, openly anti-Semitic, let's go. Crank it up to 9,000. Now, for Don Jr., no pushback at all. It's like, oh, is that what's going on? That's because Don Jr. is also a dumbass. Stupid. But look, here's the thing, though. In this case, there's no conspiracy theory. Okay? Look, the DA in the Rittenhouse case is a man named Mike Gravelli. And he had actually been, a DA of the year in 2021. He didn't preside over the case. Normally, they would preside over something that is pretty high profile as the Rittenhouse case, right? No, he handed it off to one of his ADAs, Thomas Binger, who blew the case immediately. So look, the real thing that happened is not George Soros funded prosecutors. No, there was a lot of public pressure because of what had happened to, go in and adjudicate the case. Now, what happened is, or I should say, to make charges. But what happened is this idiot kid, Rittenhouse, decided to grab his gun and to, cosplay or LARP as a militiaman, got in way over his head, and 2 people are dead now. This would not have happened if he had stayed home and played Xbox. And trust me, we would all rather he had stayed home and not showed up. Now, this kid, of course, is a result of this celebrity in the right wing, who is now, unsurprisingly, spouting anti-Semitic conspiracy theories about George Soros-funded prosecutors. Because he either believes in, because he's been deeply influenced by the people that he's decided to hang out with, some of which might be literal white supremacists, or he's invoking Soros because he knows that chuds are going to throw money at him in order to help him with his legal bills. Again, for the fact that he didn't stay home and play Xbox like he should have. Either way, super gross. And I really, really wish that would have never had to have been subjected to Kyle Rittenhouse. Okay. Let's move on here. Something a little bit more serious. PS or Xbox? Personally, I have a PlayStation, but I don't really care. I'm not sure why I said Xbox. It's a game system. People like Xbox. I'm not necessarily into the Xbox camp, although I'm not really even a fanboy of any console, even though I have a Nintendo Switch and a PlayStation. This is quite the stun lock already. But I mostly play on PC. So, and you could say that PC is a lot like an Xbox because it's all Microsoft. Anyway, okay. Moving on. Let's go to East Palestine. There you go, S85. Last comment here. I'm platform agnostic. I play them all if I had the money. Yes, that's it. Exactly. I 100% believe that. Okay, so moving on. Let's go to the publicity stunt here. It appears that former President Donald Trump is getting a little bit of pushback for visiting the site of the train disaster in Ohio that ended up spreading toxic chemicals to that surrounding community. Now, the pushback, aside from, of course, the usual pushback that you would have from mainstream media, legacy media, Democrats, progressives, etc., no, it's actually coming from some of the locals, even people who are, I don't know, supporters of Trump. Weird. According to outlets who've spoken with members of the town, they would rather have action and accountability, not publicity stunts and photo ops. And I actually I agree with that. So here's what Politico's Adam Wren wrote. Quote, people living in East Palestine said that they were unsure about many things, whether the water was safe to drink, whether to remain in their homes, how to explain their headaches and bloody noses, and what to think about the VIPs making appearances in their hometown. So let me stop there and just note that it's very important to talk about the negative health impacts that people are already experiencing and will experience in the future as a result of the chemicals that were spilled. That's going to have to be addressed, as well as the loss of wildlife, of course, fish, dying in the streams, or I should say polluted streams that have killed fish and wildlife, etc. That's an issue. So now, going to the skepticism of the community, because here's a governor out there saying, Governor Mike DeWine, saying, the water is totally safe. Everything's going to be fine. You're fine. The water's fine. We're all fine. Everything's fine. Just go back to your lives and forget about actually holding the train company accountable. So now look, I don't blame you for being skeptical because we saw the same thing happening in Flint, right? The Snyder administration had said the water in Flint was safe to drink. It was not. They caused this Flint disaster by trying to save money and also ignoring a minority community, right? So now, after, I should say around 2016, President Obama actually came to Flint and to try to prove that the water was safe, drank a glass of filtered Flint water. See, I can drink it. It's fine. Yeah, it's filtered. But what you haven't done, and this is why it was panned as being tone deaf by people like Michael Moore. In that case, they hadn't replaced the corroded pipes in Flint. They were still there. And sure, yeah, okay, you can have a filter to drink it. But what about washing your clothes? What about washing your body in it? That's going to have a problem. That's going to lead to issues. And by the way, it's for the people who are already poisoned. You can't unpoison them. You can't give back the potential that was lost in their lives as a result of that tainted water. And for the government, the local government, basically covering it up and then getting away with it. So that's why people are skeptical of the government, local government, and the federal government. It's because they never hold people accountable that are in power, whether it be Democrats or Republicans. And by the way, at the same time, during that visit, they were still saying, and the government was saying, even though Obama had drank this water, pregnant women and children, you might want to stick to drinking bottled water. Well, then you're admitting that it's not safe. So look, this is a similar situation in the fact that the government has failed. Now, that said, when it comes to East Palestine, the Obama administration actually did pass regulations saying, hey, you could you need to upgrade your ECS brakes. Okay? You need to upgrade your braking system because you're running on Civil War era technology. Now, those rules passed. Trump got into power. He got rid of those rules. He deregulated the industry thanks to a flood of lobbying money. And did we hear about that when he went to East Palestine, when he made his little speech? No, he did not. He didn't talk about this at all. He didn't. In fact, he had lied. He's I never deregulated. No, that wasn't me. And then refused to name and blame the company Norfolk Southern. Instead, passed out MAGA hats, passed out water, Trump water, the best water, the wettest water, wetter in the history of water than any other body of water ever. Can't get more wetter than this. It's ridiculous. The guy is again, a serial liar. And of course, people are angry about that. Now, as I said before, I don't blame anybody for not trusting the government. And so when politicians show up to do a speech and a photo op, it's not going to fix the problem. It's going to make people mad. So let's get to the residents, right? Nora Wright labeled these stops publicity stunts and went on to explain that, quote, they come for an hour or so and then they leave. They don't find out how we feel. But they certainly aren't fixing the problem. Now, a Trump voter, Joe Batinovich, I don't know, I can't say that name, was dismissive of the visits as a waste of time, telling Politico, quote, I don't trust the government. The only presidents I want to see are dead presidents in my wallet. Yeah, it's definitely Republican. But here's what he also said, quote, they're using East Palestine like China and Russia and the U.S. are using Ukraine. It's a proxy war. Okay, so look, he's wrong, but also kind of right. So let's get into that, okay? Let me clarify this. So now, as I said before, the issue here that led to this is the Trump administration deregulating trains after getting massive donations and then bragging about it. Oh yeah, I got rid of all the Obama regulations. I deregulated bigly. Let me tell you. Well, that's your fault. So now he does that, brags about it. Biden gets elected, gets into power, appoints Pete Buttigieg, and then what did Pete Buttigieg do? Well, instead of putting the rules back into place, he instead proposes more deregulation. Look, according to Lever, Buttigieg is actively considering an industry-backed proposal to erode federal oversight of train braking systems. So Buttigieg, instead of fixing the problem, reversing the Trump deregulation, you're like, no, we're going to deregulate more. Isn't that what I'm here for? No, it's not what you're here for. So, but understand, this is not an issue of Democrats versus Republicans. Okay? No, it is the donors versus the people. It is corporations versus the rest of us. It is corporate rule that is causing this to happen. Let me give you an example. I mentioned Mike DeWine. Oh, no, everything's fine. It's fine DeWine. Hey, look at that. Don't worry about this. The water's everything's safe. Everything's safe. Don't worry about it. Norfolk Southern donated $10,000 to the campaign of Governor Mike DeWine. According to WSYX, in all, the railway companies contributed $98,000 during the past 6 years to Ohio statewide and legislative candidates, according to data from the Secretary of State. Virtually all of it went to Republicans, although Norfolk Southern hedged its support for DeWine in 2018 with a $3,000 check to Democratic gubernatorial candidate Richard Cordray. Norfolk Southern extensively lobbied DeWine, statewide officials, and Ohio lawmakers. Now, the same report noted that most of the disclosed attempts to influence Ohio leaders came on generic rail or transportation issues. Okay. However, some efforts were devoted to defeating legislation that would have established tougher safety standards for rail yards and train operations. That's at the state level. When on the federal level, Norfolk Southern had helped kill a federal safety rule aimed at upgrading the industry's Civil War era braking systems, again, according to good reporting from The Lever. So understand what this is. This is not a proxy war between Democrats and Republicans. It is corporations versus human beings. It is greed versus humanity. The proxies are the politicians that in some cases on both sides take money, legalize campaign bribes from the industry, and then deregulate that industry. Now, that makes the industry a ton of money. The politicians, of course, get their war chest so that they can run ads, get reelected. And the industry itself, the rails, in this case, turn around, buy back their own stock, and cut thousands of jobs, and then pocket all the extra money. In fact, according to More Perfect Union, another great place for reporting here, Norfolk Southern cut over 9,600 jobs since 2002. And at the same time, gave shareholders a 4,500% cut in dividends. So, or I should say a return on their investments. Okay, these are shareholders, thanks to stock buybacks, made an additional 4,500% since 2002. That's insane. So understand, this is corporate greed. That's the real story here. And no politician visiting is going to fix that. In fact, a lot of the politicians showing up were part of the problem because they refused to regulate corporations because the same corporations fund their campaigns. To kind of illustrate that point, the issue here with, actually a different point, media bubbles, right? So I don't generally talk about this enough, but there are media filter bubbles, right? And there's a lot of tribalism involved. So the Politico report, for example, says that Amy Britton, a Democrat and retired physical therapy assistant, was happy about Buttigieg's visit, but rolled her eyes at Trump's and at the national coverage, implying that it was that the former president is the only politician welcome in the village where she grew up. She said, quote, "We're a microcosm of what's going on in the entire country." Well, now the reason she's happy about Buttigieg showing up, but not Trump, is again the media filter bubble, right? So obviously, she's a Democrat, so she's more supportive of Pete Buttigieg. Now, for me, I'm a progressive, but I also will call out both parties. As I mentioned before, Buttigieg did not reinstate these rules. So yes, he is partly to blame, and Trump got rid of the rules. He is also to blame. So that's the issue here, okay? Now, she's right in a way that it is a microcosm of what is going on in this country. Because it's happening all over this country because of corporate rule. Again, we have thousands of train derailments. We have infrastructure that is falling apart. We have corporations that have been deregulated to an insane degree where they're not promoting safety. For example, you had the baby formula shortage, which was caused by the company that produced the baby formula having, basically their machines were tainted. They were not properly maintained. They were not properly cleaned, replaced, because they were deregulated. And so that's the issue here. We are not regulating corporations because of campaign bribes. So this is a result of our campaign system being incredibly broken and corrupt. They refuse to hold these companies accountable. And it's all about the money. Now, if you actually want to do something to prevent this from happening to your town, which could absolutely happen, well, you might want to get involved with the numerous groups pushing to get the money out of politics, because that's the real issue. If you end the lobbying, then you can end one of the biggest sources of corruption in our government. Change the campaign finance system, and you fix a lot of the problems in this country. Okay. Let me just add this.
USA, USA, USA.
Ooh, okay. Let me move on. It is a day that ends with Y, which means, of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene has said something ridiculous and stupid. Because, of course. And let me add, stupid. Okay. Now, on Thursday, the Congresswoman tweeted about how there was an astonishing 6 billion border crossings in the United States. Let me just note that population of the Earth is nearing 8 billion. Might have crossed that. A lot of people. Okay. And so, if there were 6 billion border crossings, that would be a lot. Way more than possible. Okay, but anyway, let me show you her tweet. Because, it is hilarious and stupid. 113 billion has been appointed to Ukraine in just a year. Trump's wall would have cost only 22. Congress refused to fund it. 6 billion people legally crossed our border since Biden took office. But Ukraine's border is the only border that matters to Washington. Let me just note that the reason that this country is the United States is sending money, well, one of the reasons I should say, that Ukraine is asking for and receiving a lot of that money is because, well, Russia happened to invade them with, tanks, artillery, troops, and drones, etc. And have been, killing them. Now, at the end of the day, look, I'm a peace activist, right? So I think the West should be trying to use its power or focus its power to broker peace. And not just sending weapons to weaken Russia. Now, the thing is, right, the aim here of the administration is to weaken Russia, and they've admitted this. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said that this was more about weakening the Russians than actually defending Ukraine, even though we are effectively defending Ukraine, and I believe that Ukraine should have their sovereignty because against this Russian aggression. So it's a nuanced issue, right? I didn't want this to be a proxy war because people are dying, and we have defense contractors in both the United States and Russia that are getting rich off this conflict. So this conflict isn't good for anybody. And of course, Putin is obviously clearly the aggressor. Still, the United States and the rest of allied countries need to focus on finding ways to get Putin to end this destructive war while keeping Ukrainian sovereignty intact. That would be the ideal solution here. Okay? That said, back to Greene. she immediately deleted the tweet and shared a nearly identical corrected version. So either she, of course, had caught her mistake. Well, I think she did correct her mistake because she had caught it, because either she caught it or had, realized it when she had gotten called out and made fun of, whatever. That said, she still had a mistake because she put out one that said 6 million instead of 6 billion, but at the same time, that's not right either. Let me give you some details on that. While data from the U.S. Border Patrol and Office of Field Operations indicate that while there have been millions, not billions, of encounters with undocumented immigrants attempting to cross the border during the Biden administration, the exact number of successful illegal crossings is unknown. So, look, the reality here on immigration is the Biden administration has continued the majority of Trump's border policies, which are bad. There's no open borders, okay? The right will sit there and be, open borders, they're bringing them in. No, they're not. That's not the reality. In fact, a recently proposed White House rule that has been blasted by immigration activists would limit asylum eligibility at the border to migrants who previously applied for protection in another country en route to the United States. The same rule would also disqualify migrants who previously entered the country illegally. So now, the Trump administration had proposed two similar rules, but they were both struck down. Now, the Biden administration is bringing up a similar rule. So, look, other than not building the stupid wall, which would never have worked anyway because there are ways to get around walls, Biden hasn't really changed a whole lot when it comes to immigration. And so, of course, immigration activists are not happy about this. And neither am I. But that said, I don't expect Marjorie Taylor Greene to understand these things. I mean, she is, after all, only an elected member of Congress who was on the Homeland Security Subcommittee on Border Security and Enforcement. I mean, how much could she possibly know about that subject? Probably not at all, right? I mean, I wouldn't expect her to know anything. No, at the end of the day, or not, typo or not, she is still effectively pushing a false narrative, which is also nativist. And that, look, that narrative is neo-Nazi-ish in origin, because the premise is that the United States is being invaded and attacked by migrants. Really? Really? I mean, look, these migrants are fleeing unstable countries to come to America to find a better life in this country. Partly because, again, the United States has had some impacts on the area, like, for example, the war on drugs and destabilizing, Latin American countries, et cetera, et cetera. So we know the history of this, right? Migrants, asylum seekers, refugees. That's who they are. They're not soldiers. They're not the same as the Russians that did invade a sovereign country. Even if I agree that we are spending billions and billions of dollars on weapons, without asking, of course, how we're going to pay for it, while at the same time considering spending cuts on domestic programs that help people, be able to survive as well. And at the same time, many Republicans are also openly talking about gutting things like Social Security and Medicare. They never ask, how are we going to pay for weapons and war? But they always ask how we're going to pay for social domestic programs. No, it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So, yeah. Okay. Move on to Mike Pillow. Gataman196 points out something that I think I've made this point before. The fear by bigoted white people who fear that when they become a minority, those people with whom they have denigrated for 3 centuries will treat them the same way. True. You also never hear them asking about how we can afford to give subsidies to billionaires and corporations. Also, SBM85, excellent point. They never ask about that at all. It's very true. All right.
God gave me this platform. I already know I'm going to win. China did our vote. Biden and Harris would say, hey, we're here to protect the country, and resign. Mike Lindell's a conspiracy. But you haven't. Just forget about the evidence. This was attacked.
Conspiracy theorist Mike Pillow is big mad at Republicans? Interesting. In fact, on Wednesday's episode of the Lindell Report, he announced that he is going after Republican leadership. House leader Kevin McCarthy. So now, here's what he said. Lindell TV is going after Kevin McCarthy in Congress. We're going after them because they did it wrong. Wait, what did what wrong? What's going on? Wait. Well, apparently he is not thrilled that Kevin McCarthy recently handed over 44,000 hours of January 6th surveillance footage to Fox News host Tucker Carlson. Now, look.
Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
No, maybe not. No. Now, Tucker Carlson, he's a liar, a known propagandist. I mean, he even lied about his reaction to January 6th. He had called Trump a demon or demonic about it, and said, these people, they're gonna crash our stock price. So behind the scenes, Tucker Carlson was appalled, mainly because it would impact him. That said, now he's getting this footage. And what he's going to do with it, of course, is that he's probably going to push some sort of conspiracy theory that, January 6th wasn't Trump supporters, FBI, Antifa, whatever else he can come up with to discredit the January 6th committee and downplay the insurrection. Okay. So now, that's not why Mike Lindell is mad. No, of course not. No, he's mad because he's not the one that got exclusive access to this video. In fact, here he is explaining.
It was scary.
Oh,
I was up.
That's the wrong video.
Everybody knows Kevin McCarthy and the gang released 44,000 hours from January 6th to exclusively Fox News. Well, we're not going to sit back and let that happen. You don't just give it. It's like a cover-up. Why does just Fox get this? So they can cover it up even more? It's disgusting. We were going to go after Fox to get it, and the lawyers, yesterday we had a big meeting, and they said, no, we're going to go right after the Speaker, right after Congress, and I'll take it all the way up. I don't care if I don't get it there. We're going to run this all the way to the Supreme Court.
Wow. That is a myth. We're going to take it to the court. Very, very likely that will actually never, ever happen. But, all right. We're not going to let that happen on my watch. Fox News getting this. What are you going to do about it? Not a lot.
Can't let that happen.
Okay. But anyway, now Lindell is also claiming that his network was injured. Oh, that's the standing. I've been injured. I've been discriminated against. He claims that McCarthy violated his First Amendment rights, as well as, get this, the Equal Protection Clause. He says he's being discriminated against. That's not what that means. That's not. Oh my God.
You idiot.
Why? How can they be this stupid? Stupid. Okay, but look, what's going on here is that this is nothing more than an exclusive. There's nothing illegal about McCarthy handing over this footage to Fox News. Now, look, there's a ton of ethical problems here. As I had mentioned before, you're giving this footage to a known propagandist who's going to chop it up and then, present things out of context and make it basically a way to downplay a very, very serious issue here, which was the attempted insurrection of the government. But anyway, getting this footage, however, it's not illegal. It's not a violation of Mike Pillow's free speech, and it's not discrimination. If he actually, takes this to court, which I doubt it. How many times does he threaten, I'm going to take it to the Supreme Court? No, he's going to get laughed out of court. And look, by the way, there is precedence here. In 2021, more than a dozen news outlets actually sued to get access to the videos, which led to a federal judge in Washington, D.C. ruling that the public does have a strong interest in seeing this footage. So now, since then, footage has been released on a case-by-case basis. And so now the government, in defending this footage, claims security concerns. In a court filing opposing the release of the footage, federal prosecutors argued that once the capabilities of a U.S. Capitol interior surveillance camera, including its position, whether it's pans, tilts, or zooms, is disclosed to the public via the release of a single video from that camera, the cat is out of the bag. So, look, they had legitimate security concerns, but at the same time, this is a public interest. That said, Lindell, not concerned about any of that. What Lindell wanted was the scoop. He wanted to take the videos and chop it up himself and cover it. That's it. He's just mad that Tucker got there first. And at the end of the day, it's about Lindell staying relevant, making sure the chuds come to him and buy his crappy pillows instead of going to Tucker Carlson, who will peddle all sorts of other misinformation. This is one of those situations where it's let him fight. Let him fight. Okay. Anyway. Kevin picked a great week to announce this. The same week Fox was exposed to verifiable propaganda. Kevin is bad at politics. True. Very, very true. Okay. So, moving on. Oh, pillow fight. Pillow fight. Okay. I expect Fox to release an edit that shows police and riders glad handing and hugging. Yeah. A woman who was arrested and charged with a hate crime after being caught on security camera setting fire to a gay pride flag outside of a New York City restaurant was in court, and, well, that court hearing did not go well. It got a little crazy. So now 35-year-old Angelina Cando, apparently, according to New York Post, had interrupted court proceedings several times, yelling and screaming, and just generally acting crazy. Cando was arrested on Monday for multiple counts of graffiti and hate crime charges for separate crimes she had allegedly committed the same night. She apparently went on a vandalism spree. Officials said that she had scribbled phrases like Jesus, okay, JNA, I'm assuming Jesus and Angelina, as well as something very profane, along the Canal Street subway station before writing Jesus is King on 2 cop cars. A few hours later, Cando allegedly set fire to the rainbow flag outside of the Little Prince restaurant in Soho. And so, of course, that flag had also featured "Make America Gay Again," which is awesome.
We have to keep our country gay.
We do. We must. It must be even more gay. We must endeavor to make this country gayer. Anyway, now the damage to the restaurant. Now, I previously reported that there wasn't any damage. Turns out there was. Flames actually ended up breaking the restaurant windows, burning a flower display, and causing damage to the doors. So that's pretty serious. It's vandalism. That's attempted arson. So it sounds like to me. Now, Kando in court had appeared before a judge in the morning, but was actually sent to the back of the courtroom to calm down after going on some unhinged rants about her mother and stepfather. Wow. She was later arraigned before Judge John Zo Wang, though she continued to ramble nonsensically during the hearing. According to Smith, Kando was charged in January with obstructing the breathing of another person, throwing multiple objects at him, and as well as causing cuts and lacerations. To which she responded with, "False accusation! False accusation! They're all fake!" He added that earlier this month, Kando was hit with the menacing charges for allegedly threatening employees of a pizza shop with a knife. I reported that. And to which she responded with, quote, "Then I called the police." What? Now, Kando's defense attorney, however, argued that she had never had run-ins with law enforcement before the three incidences, and was likely suffering from some sort of psychotic breakdown, to which the judge ordered a mental evaluation to determine if she is fit to stand trial, and then remanded her into custody. Following the hearing, she had shouted, "All I did was write with a pen. Please let me free. Don't pin me down." Did she forget that she had actually done attempted arson? She's literally on camera setting a flag on fire. Look, there are two different things, and I'm, of course, not the person to judge this because I'm not a mental health expert, but maybe she is suffering from some sort of mental issue, of which she, of course, needs help, or she might be using the insanity defense to try to get out of hate crimes charges by acting like someone who is crazy. Again, I'm not qualified to say which of those things is true. But when you look at her record, though, I mean, she's definitely dealing with something. Something's going on here. And if it's a mental health issue, as I said before, well, she should get health care. I hope she gets health care. I hope she gets mental health care. And by the way, I believe that every American is entitled to health care. Yes, that it should be free. Everyone should have mental health care. That said, if she also ends up just being a hateful chud, as I originally believed, I hope that maybe some time away from society might help make her to reconsider some of her actions. Either way, I actually want this woman to get some help, whether it be to deprogram her from being a hateful chud, if that's the case, or to actually get health care and get back to being a normal, relatively good, productive person in society. Either way, I actually want a good outcome and resolution. Okay. Anyway. She used to live near the Little Prince before this all happened. Her boyfriend lived near the restaurant. Yeah, and all the neighbors had called her crazy. But again, I'm not a mental health expert, so, you know, it is what it is. Okay. Moving on, let's go to the internet. Something that's very important. On Tuesday, the Supreme Court heard oral arguments in a case that could destroy the internet as we know it. This involves Section 230 immunity. So what it does is that it shields online platforms, again, like Facebook, Google, Twitter, from liabilities when they rely on algorithms to serve content. Okay, so look, at the heart of the case was a family who is suing Google because YouTube had recommended an ISIS video. So they thought, oh, that ISIS video radicalized someone, and that's why, my child is dead. So now, that said, they're blaming the algorithms and saying, well, if Section 230 didn't exist, if we got rid of it, well, then these companies would have to no longer rely on algorithms and actually go through and police content manually. So we would have to go through and remove things, but it would have a bigger impact than that, because then it would also make these companies liable for anything that people put on their platforms. Imagine somebody making a terrible comment in your comment section and potentially getting the entire site to shut you down. And so this could be abused by trolls. They could come in and go to a site they don't like, make disparaging comments, and then, of course, could get these platforms in trouble that way, and would lead to a content moderation crackdown that would basically remove anything that could be considered controversial and scrub the internet, essentially. Not a good situation. Okay, so now the case Gonzalez versus Google asks specifically whether Google should be held liable for violating federal law that prohibits aiding and abetting a terrorist organization for making targeted recommendations that promoted ISIS videos. So now that reminds me, by the way, of Adpocalypse. I don't know if you remember that. That was when advertisers found out that some of their ads were also ending up on ISIS recruiting videos. So these companies freaked out. They pulled their ads. That led to massive changes on YouTube, some of which, of course, still impact creators today, because now there's such a thing as authoritative sources of news. So basically what that means is that YouTube whitelists certain organizations, mainly legacy and mainstream news outlets, and the algorithm now knows to recommend those out to the general public, whereas news channels, or I should say political commentary channels such as myself and Humanist Report, Rational National, and of course you also have right-wing sources that don't get recommended out anymore. At least not over those legacy media outlets. And so, look, those changes, again, have changed YouTube to where it's very, very unfriendly towards independent media, whether you're right or left or center or whatever. So that's just one of the effects of this. And if you thought Adpocalypse was bad, get rid of Section 230 immunity, hold them liable for content posted on their platform, and that's it. You've gotten rid of basically YouTube. It's over. Done. So now, ironically, I'm on the side of Google here. It's weird that I'm on the side of big tech. Because again, what Section 230 states is that no provider of an interactive computer service shall be treated as a publisher or speaker of any information posted by other people. It's very simple. So now Google's general counsel, Halima Delane Prado, told Ars Technica that Congress was clear that Section 230 protects the ability of online services to organize content using, of course, their algorithms. Because look, YouTube has 500 hours of video uploaded every minute. There's no way a human being could organize that content without algorithms. So at some point, you have to have that. That said, of course, do I like the fact that the algorithms don't like independent media? Yeah, of course I hate that. But that doesn't have anything to do with Section 230. That just has everything to do with corporate, greed. But in the case of Section 230, this involves freedom of expression on the internet, literal freedom here. And so when she makes the argument that eroding the protections would fundamentally change how the internet works, making it less open, safe, and helpful, she's actually right. And again, it will also make it less profitable, of course, because then YouTube and Facebook, and they wouldn't have user-generated content because they would have to crack down and massively moderate. Everything would be very bland and milquetoast, and because they would fear somebody being offended. Ironically, I think it would more often be the right wing being super offended at content being put up, and since they would have the money, they would cause endless lawsuits. So that would be an issue. Okay, look, the internet with Section 230, that's why you have diverse opinions online. Without it, companies would be incentivized to eliminate content that would be, again, considered to be controversial or offensive. So this is why, by the way, Republicans in Congress do want to gut it. They want to sue Google for allowing opinions that are not friendly towards the right wing and also not friendly towards businesses and corporations. Now, thankfully, so far, the arguments don't seem to be convincing the judges. Why is that? I mean, we have a right-wing Supreme Court, very conservative, but at the same time, they're also an incredibly pro-corporate court. And that actually might be good for us in a way. And let me get to that. So now legal experts attending the proceedings said that they felt very optimistic that Section 230 would not be repealed, at least by the court. Now, there is a chance that it could be changed in Congress, although Congress also gets a lot of money from these corporations from big tech. So I guess if it ends up getting struck down by the court, or I'm sorry, not struck down by the court, if this was dismissed by the court, very likely won't go to Congress, and we would still have Section 230, and that would be a good thing. Now, these experts say that the Supreme Court's questions almost exclusively focused on what the statute currently says and not any other legal questions, like on how Section 230 guards online speech. Now, remember, the right wing also claims that we need to get rid of Section 230 because they're unfairly going after conservatives. No, they're not. Conservative stuff is everywhere. Conservative opinion, everywhere. It's just that some of these rules say that, well, okay, you can't be openly transphobic, openly homophobic, or openly racist. It kind of gives it away that if they're mad about this because of these content moderation rules that these companies have set up and are removing content as a result of that, well, it just shows you that what they really want to do is be transphobic, homophobic, and racist. So, I mean, it's kind of what their content wants to be. That's why they're mad about it. But they don't know that if they actually are successful in getting rid of 230, then there wouldn't be, I mean, the vast majority of conservative channels, at least on social media, would just be obliterated. Now, let me get to Santa Clara University of School Law professor Eric Goldman, who filed one of the dozens of briefs in support of Google, told a panel audience that because justices seemed to understand the full scope of what's at stake in the case, there was a reason to be optimistic that Google will likely prevail. Justice Elena Kagan, during the arguments, also noted that the algorithms themselves are, quote, endemic to the internet. Every time anybody looks at anything on the internet, there's an algorithm involved. They're how websites tackle the daunting task of organizing and prioritizing material when they are flooded with third-party content. And that's true. That's how it works. Now, interestingly enough, Brett Kavanaugh also defended Section 230, saying that Congress drafted a broad text, that text has been unanimously read by courts of appeals over the years to provide protection in this sort of situation. You want to challenge that consensus, but doing so could crash the digital economy. Now, I think that's very important here. I mentioned pro-corporate court. One of the most pro-corporate courts I think we've ever had. So, of course, what they're looking at is the frame of companies and corporations and saying, well, if you crash the digital economy by making them clamp down on all of this user-generated content and holding these publishers liable, these platforms liable for things that other people, third parties, will publish on them, well, that would destroy everything. And it's true. Now, he also notes, or said in his opinion, why not let Congress take a look at this and try to fashion something along the lines of what you're saying? Or as he put it later, isn't it better to keep it the way it is and put the burden on Congress to change that? Kagan also said this, we're a court. We really don't know about these things. You know, these are not like the 9 greatest experts on the internet. Well, of that, I agree. 100%. Neil Gorsuch, Sotomayor, and Kagan Neil Gorsuch and Sotomayor echoed Kagan and Kavanaugh. Then you had John Roberts, who, again, being incredibly pro-business, talked about the potential lawsuits, saying that billions of responses to inquiries on the internet are made every day. Every one of those would be a possibility of a lawsuit. If plaintiffs could merely assert without evidence that the algorithm showed them defamatory or harmful information, the result may be that the internet will be sunk. Again, ironic, the most pro-corporate court in history actually might get this one right. Obviously for the reasons that they want to protect corporate profits, but as a side effect, they would actually protect the internet, which is, again, freedom of speech and expression online and free and open internet. I care about that far more than I care about the corporations. I don't care about their profit margins, whatever. I actually care about open expression. And that's why, of course, we should continue to hope for the best that Section 230 can and will be protected. Even if it is for the wrong reasons, as long as they get to the right outcome, that's all I care about. Just the biggest laugh is that removing Section 230 would totally trash Musk. Just a thought. Oh, yeah. Imagine Elon Musk being held accountable legally for like something Cat Turd says. That would be hilarious. I talk about the Cat Turd 3 a.m. call, right? Where I'm not getting as much engagement. Well, now there's the 3 a.m. Call about Cat Turd's antics, of which somebody is now suing Twitter for. Oh, that's what would happen without Section 230. Conservatives, you might want to think about that. If you want to keep continuing to call, liberals snowflakes and pink-haired communists.
Pink-haired communists.
Yes, that's the one. Then, you might want to support Section 230 because ultimately it's the right thing to do. Protect freedom on the internet. Okay. Well, then. That does it for the week in today's show. All right, so let's see. Section 230 is a double-edged sword in this case. Yeah, I mean, again, there is the pro-corporate stuff, and maybe there does need to be changes to make it a little less corporate-friendly, a little more friendly to independent creators, and that would be fine, but I don't trust Congress to adjudicate that way. To go and actually make changes. So the best outcome that I could see right now is just to leave the damn thing alone. Again, I don't trust Congress to make any changes that are going to benefit freedom of speech and average people. And so leave it alone. Just leave it alone. What would Elon do without Cat Turd? Right? I don't know. Ironically, of course, these same people, they now despise Elon Musk. You can't make these people happy.
They call them dumps, big, massive dumps.
Okay. All right, so let's see. Oh, I've got a lot of stuff in YouTube here. Jason Ray points out something very interesting. Imagine if a POC went to the Nazi rally at Charlottesville armed with an AR-15 and a Nazi or two ended up dead. Do you think the POC would get off? No, of course not. We have a justice system that is stacked, of course, against people of color. Yes, of course they would not get off. And, again, Kyle Rittenhouse did. That's an unfortunate fact. As well as, I'm forgetting that George Zimmerman also got off with literally going after a teenager with Skittles and iced tea. It's insane. It's insane the things people with guns that are armed are able to get away with. Let's see. Franchise 2K. I'm sorry, Franchise. Why did I call you Franchise? Let's see. Thanks for being a member. And thanks to Gabby Mathis again for the sub. Love the show. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you for gifting a membership, Gabby. Actually, more memberships. I really appreciate that. But has some criticism. Instead of reporting on Marjorie Greene, you should report on the anniversary of the Ukrainian war. Again, that's just something that's just going to get me into a massively doomer, terrible mood, and I will probably say something I regret. Okay. Now I just suck at doing foreign policy stories. Know your strengths, know your weaknesses. Straw Carpenter says, Klingons, Republican role models. No, because Klingons have honor. So they have honor. Republicans have no honor. So, or at least they could say that they have honor. Republicans certainly don't even say they have honor in a lot of cases. All right, so let's see. Madi Darno says, humanity and integrity reflected in your audience, who've been just like a family to me. Thank you, much love. Yeah, I do have one of the best audiences in the world, even if they, come after me. No, I love you all. Republicans are more like Ferengi. Yeah, I've made that observation before. Klingon politics has no honor as well. Yeah, I have seen that. What was it? It's some pretty good episodes in the Next Generation that talk about that. So, yeah. Let's see. Oh, that's it there. If there's anything on Twitch. Yes, Marina McCowery Green resubbed for a month at tier 1 for 7 months and said, the key to legal murder is to scream, stop resisting. Think we could do that to the Nazis? I felt threatened. To the Nazis, I felt threatened defense. Interesting. But again, if you're not a white right-winger, that might end disastrously for you. So I'm just saying. I mean, think of legal gun owner Philando Castile, who was murdered by police officers. So, in his car. Legal gun owner said, I have a gun in the car. Shot and killed anyone. So. Okay. Anyway. I guess the only way to protect yourself is to be rich and white. Unfortunately. Okay. So, that's it. That's all I've got to you today. For you today. Sorry. Really appreciate it. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. We'll be back next week. Love you all, and remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We'll see you back here later. Have a great weekend.
There's some whores in this town. Wet ass P-word. Can't let that happen. Win. Elon.
why their due process rights are being so flagrantly and horrifically violated.
They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.
Stop with the questions. Celebrate.